Hey, what up, yeah? What up, guys? What up? I am Lou. So, just getting a few things set up, guys, and we'll get started, man, in a few. All right, guys, just getting a few things set up, and we'll get started in a minute. Probably need to get things set up sooner. Always curious too. I probably just see how other streamers that I watch. I watch a lot of other guys live stream, but I never watch them at the beginning. What kind of process they have, I guess. Um, but let me go ahead and I did some changes. So I used to stream with OBS. Now I'm streaming with Streamlabs. Either way, there's a few changes that I needed that I end up doing, and so now I'm trying to get certain things in place as well. So let's see. But I'm almost done, guys. I'm almost done. Let me just get this. Um, so let's see. All right, guys. We'll get started in about a minute, man. Just trying to get one thing set up, and then we'll be good to get started. Again, guys, those of you who are starting to join, anything that you have, like um, programming wise, maybe you want me to review your source code, you need some help, you want to debug a project you're working on, maybe you want to talk about a specific feature, things of that nature, right? Whatever it is, this is the time in the live stream. Go ahead and jump on. We'll talk and go through all of that. So we'll figure out. I'll be more than happy to kind of help y'all out on that. Um, Damn it. All right, guys, about to start in a minute again. Um, Anybody who's interested, you could email me as well. Contact iamlu.net if there's any source code that you want me to review, perhaps. More than happy to review it that way. It's up to you. Oh man, I need to switch my account. No wonder. All right, cool. Let me see. All right, cool. All right, guys, now that I have everything in place. All right, guys, man, what up, what up, what up? Hopefully, y'all doing good today, Tuesday evening. So last week I missed some time last week because of, man, my throat was just all jacked up, man. Went to the doctor. They had him take a look at it. It was just burning, man. It was on fire. I was coughing. Eventually, I was trying to do a live stream on Friday. Because, again, this happened like Monday night, Tuesday. So by Friday, I was hoping I'd be better. I was feeling better, but, man, my throat, dude, I couldn't talk. It was just getting so dry. I was just um, so irritated. The more that I talked, it would get more raspy. Either way, though, guys, I pretty much missed the whole week of last week of live streaming. So that sucks because I enjoy live streaming. Um, but again, hopefully we could get back to it going forward. Again, what we do in these live streams is we're gonna hang out, we're gonna talk. If you have code, if you have any issues, maybe you want me to review your source code. Maybe you need help debugging a project that you're working on. Maybe you need help with a feature, right? There's some kind of feature that you're working on and you want some help on. This is the time, dude. This is the place to jump on. Leave. You could put in the comment some kind of request of what you need help with. You could email me if you like as well, and I'll put that. Why is it not showing? What happened here, guys? That's odd. It will not let me provide a comment. That's kind of odd. Yeah. So again, you could email me. Maybe it's something you don't want to, put out there. You're more than welcome to email me. You could email me at contact@iamlu.net. So I just put that in the chat. So you're more than welcome to communicate with me that way. But again, though, guys, this is the time. This is the place. If you do need help, more than happy to help y'all out. There are some people that reach out to me through email. And again, through email is a bit limited. I'll get to it, I get to it right away, but I'll get to it eventually, maybe in a couple of days or so. One of the things that I started doing as well, and let me go ahead and put it on the screen real quick. So, man, do I need to log in? Nope, I'm already logged in. Cool. So another thing that I started doing as well is probably need to add this to my add the link to the description. But if you want to book some time with me, right? If you want to have a one-on-one session, maybe because you're learning Python and you need some insight, some direction of, hey, how do I learn this? How do I get started? Maybe it's that, right? Maybe you're working on a project and you're stuck and you want to know, hey, man, I need help. Maybe can you help me out? Again, a one-on-one session. Maybe it could be something as simple as, hey, I'm running a project, some code that you deployed or that you showed in one of your videos, and I'm getting this error message. Can you help me out? Like that, we'll jump on, we'll meet 30 minutes. We'll try to solve some of the problems. If it's a big problem that we need more time, we could always schedule some additional time. But nevertheless, go ahead and click on the link, and then you just book a time. Find a date or time. Wednesdays are ideal if you're I'm from the U.S., right? So if you're somebody that's international, for example, I have a time on Wednesdays, early Wednesdays, at noon, 12 and 12:30. So again, if you happen, I had one of my subscribers, schedule a meeting, and I didn't have this initially. I probably should have. It would have been easier for him. But we met at 8:30 at night. Now my time, that's not bad, 8:30. Now the problem is, my bad. I think it was 9 o'clock my time, 9 p.m., which is not. It's very doable. Problem was he was from Australia, and his time was like 4 in the morning. So he actually he mentioned to me he wanted to sleep early because he wanted to meet with me. He wanted me to, help him out and review some stuff. So hopefully for those of y'all that fit in those time zones, the 12 o'clock time slots, will be more feasible. But nevertheless, it's up to you. Just take a look at it. Whatever time works best. The only thing I ask for, right, in return, of course, if you could subscribe, give me a follow. That's a big one for sure. But besides that, and again, it's strictly optional, man. You don't have to do this. Just a slight ask, right, if you can. Um, support my channel by donating. Here's the link down below. You could easily, whatever it is, man. Even if it's $1, right? It doesn't matter, right? The amount does not matter as much, as more so of the acknowledgement of some kind of support, right? For me to, you know, spend some time and kind of help you out, and to just kind of explain to why I'm even doing this. I have some plans of what I want to do with the channel. Part of that going to be hiring, probably started off by hiring a Python programmer part time that we together are going to now start kind of being able to tackle more of these requests that I'm getting right now, of like making certain videos over certain subjects. Right now, I have somebody that will be able to help me out, so we'll be able to push out more contents as well. Also, when we do live streams, like right now, it wouldn't just be me; it'll be me and somebody else. The other person we both will be on the live stream. So again, as the channel grows and we get more people that are requesting and wanting help, hopefully we'll be able to help out more people, right? That's kind of the goal, the mindset behind it. So we'll see how things work out, but that's the plan. Again, plans don't always work out how one expects, but hey, you got to at least try, right? At the end of the day. So that's the plan anyways. What am I doing? So either way, guys, so hopefully that kind of just again, if you want to book a session and so on, that's the time to do it, man. This is the time of the live streams. If you got questions, you got problems you need help with, this is the time to jump on and we see what we could do. What else? Also, I do have a giveaway for the month. So I had a giveaway for the last month, and the subscriber was Python developer. So he did. I emailed him. I communicated with him. He's a winner. We're gonna work things out. I'm gonna mail him the keyboard that he won for the month of May. Yeah, it's the month of May. I'm gonna be giving out some RAM. So 32 gigs of RAM, 2 sticks, 16 gigs each. 3600 megahertz DDR4 Corsair RAM. So if you're interested, if you need some RAM, I'm going to be giving away some RAM. Only requirement is be a subscriber. That's it, right? So one of the things that I'm working on right now too is I'm putting together. It's going to be a basic app, but I'm building an app, and I'm going to try to have it done in the next couple of days. But ultimately, if you want to be part of this giveaway, I'm going to provide the viewers with a link. That link would allow you to put your name in, right, for the giveaway. All is going to require the email address, and you're going to put your name in. So whenever I do my giveaway, I'm going to have the app do a random pick. It's going to literally randomly go through the list of names and pick one name. And whoever the winner is wins the RAM. So I'm going to be doing that probably the first week of June. It will be the actual giveaway. But the app itself, I'm working on. I'm going to try to get it done next couple of days. I'm doing 2 giveaways because I do have international subscribers, and I want to do something to help out my subscribers that are watching me international as well, because it's about 50% of my subscriber base. In order for me to show some love to them as well, what I'm going to be doing is giving away a $50 gift card, Amazon gift card for these people. So anybody, pretty much be 2 giveaways. One is a $50 gift card from Amazon, straightforward. in theory, anybody could register for that, even if you're in the U.S. But it was more so designed for anybody who, for my followers that are international. And then, of course, anybody from the U.S., if you need RAM, then you could, put your name in for the giveaway for my RAM. So that's the plan, right? When it comes to dealing with that. What else? So, yeah, I think that's it, man. At least for when it comes to that. Again, if any questions, man, whatever it is, man, don't there's no such thing as a stupid question. Like, if you have a question, even and if you're new, you want to know, um, very basic stuff about programming, how certain things work. By all means, man, this is the time. Be more than happy to help you out and see what I could do. So one of the things I do want to touch bases on, and let's kind of go over that real quick. And I want to show y'all, right? So ideally, let me start a brand new project. Damn, I do need to start a project. So let me do a quick project real quick. I think this should be helpful. So this relates to Python arguments. That's pretty much what it is. Alright guys, hold on, give me a minute. Alright, so let me create a new project real quick. And let's see, I'll put this in my sandbox. I'm gonna call this alright, cool. And let me go ahead and connect to it. Then I can show my screen. Alright, cool. So one of the things I'm going to do here is, let me just create a new file. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Yep, so it's easier to see on the eyes. So let's create a new file and let's just call it test py, right? Nothing special. But I want to show y'all something, right? So ultimately, one of my viewers that we were kind of reviewing some code, he had some questions about this. And I think some of y'all may also, so some of my projects you will see where I'm taking in arguments. And so when I say arguments, is a good example would be let's see, like sandbox, Python. So for example, let's say if I'm going to run this script, right, it will be Python. Let me make it bigger. It will be Python test py, and then you could pass in some kind of arguments besides that, right? Maybe it's some sort of variable name, right? I don't call it file. There could be some kind of directory pass as well, right? So it could be like C drive, I don't know, code, docs, well, whatever, right? I mean, these are considered arguments here. So one of the things that we're doing when want to kind of show you, and I think this may help out. So first, you need to import in the dot system. So we're gonna import in the system package. Inside the system package, we have a argument variable that we could utilize. But so for example, let's say in this file, I'm gonna create two argument variables that I want to create, and kind of give an example. So let's say if I create a function, and we're gonna call this function add, and we're gonna add x and y, right? Try to keep it simple for now. And ultimately, what we're gonna do here, we're gonna do return x plus y, right? So nothing special, pretty straightforward. And make it a little bit bigger. There it goes. Okay. Now, in the same time, let's say where the x and y is going to come? Where's that coming from, right? It has to come from somewhere. So one method of this, where it could come from, it's going to be, I'm going to call it value 1, and this would be system argument variable index 1. So keep in mind, in programming in Python, the first index is always 0, but in this case, when you're passing in arguments, it's not going to be 0, it's going to be 1. And the reason why 1 is already being utilized, and I'm going to show you why it's being utilized. So if I were to do print system argument variable 0, oops, we'll see what that value is, right? We'll see what, let me just kind of, oh, damn it. Let me show you what that entails. So for example, this would be the system argument 0 value, right? So that at least when I run it, we'll see that value pop up. Okay, so the first value is going to be argument 1. Value 2, it's going to be system argument variable 2. So again, 0 is already being utilized by default, right? That's why we cannot utilize 0. But the next argument that we pass in is going to be variable 1, then variable 2. And that's kind of where these come in. So now, since I have this function, this add function that we may want to run, it would be something as print add value 1, value 2. That's it. That's all we have to put. And ultimately, it should print. We should get 2 print statements back. This first one is more just to kind of show you, well, what is the first argument variable, because 0 is already being utilized, and I'm going to show you what that is. Then, which means that if 0 is being utilized, in order to pass in the argument variable, I have to use the next index in available, which in this case would be 1, and then of course 2, and then as you can see, I'm passing in these values to add it and going to print. So now let's go ahead and run this, but I'm going to run this in my terminal. Right, so let me go ahead and run this in my terminal. So if I were to run this as is, we're probably going to get an error back, and I'll show you why. Yep, we got an error back in list index out of range. So again, what does that mean? That means that if you have a list, and let's say that list you have 3 values, you got value 1, 2, and 3, which means from an index standpoint, it's 0, 1, and 2. Well, I'm trying to call 1 and 2, but there is no values available. There's only one available. But before we go there, let me show you why, right? But before we go there, if we take a look at this first statement, see how it printed right here? So the system argument variable 0, index 0, happens to be test.py. All right, so what does that mean? That means when you run Python, the very first index 0, is going to be your file name. So that's what always by default, that's always being utilized, as your argument variable, because it's your file. It's what Python takes in, and again, it's going to execute your file. So that's index number 1. Now, anything after that, it's the next index in line, right? So we know this is index 0, test.py index 0. Let me move this over to the side. Okay, so we know that's 0. The next thing is going to be, so let's say if my index 1, which is the next one in line, I'm going to make it a value of 4. The next one in line, I'm going to make it a value of 7. When I run it, because I added these together, oh, you know what? I know why. These are technically strings. They're not numbers, even though, they look like numbers, but they're not. Which means one of the things that I would have to do here is I would have to let me go ahead and convert them to float. Again, this is something more basic. I would do things differently if I really was trying to do something like this. I would try to determine if it's a integer or a decimal number, then convert it to its proper value. I mean, there's other things, but nevertheless, just keep it simple. Just kind of show you the idea behind arguments. That's ultimately what I'm trying to do here, right? So now when I run it, we get 11. It's actually adding up now. So again, because these are numbers, I'm converting them. I converted these string values to float values, which is why you have a .0 at the end. Now it's adding properly, right? 4 plus 7 gives me a value. So as you can see here, because we're passing in variables, it's dynamic. Like our output is a dynamic value that's being generated, but it's based on our inputs, right? Our arguments that we're passing in. So now kind of going back to this guy, we talked about how the first system argument is a Python file, and that happens to be see, it even tells us right here in the description, command line argument index 0 is a script pass name. Oh, damn it. Is a script pass name if known, pass module search pass 0, blah blah blah. Again, it happens to be the first index, which means it's going to be your file name. That's what this guy is, right? I passed this as a argument in my Python interpreter, and that happens to be my first system argument variable. Now, anything, I could pass in many variables after the fact, and that's where this is, again, this is 0, index 0. Those of you who are new in programming, it doesn't start at 1, it starts at 0, so that's why it's 0, 1, and then 2. And that's where I have here. This is my second argument, and this is my third one that I pass it in. This is the index number. So then when I call it down here, I'm able to print out that value. So this would be, again, this is something on a more basic level, but you'll see in some of my videos where I use these system variables to do take in some values to make it more dynamic. Like in one of my videos, which is the Python SharePoint video, I take in a few argument variables, and I did it that way so anybody should be able to just take my code as is, clone it, and they could, in theory, just start running it. And the only thing they have to do is configure their JSON file with their credentials, but besides that, after they config that, they're good to go, man. All they have to do now is they could run the Python script and pass in the right variables that relates to, you know, their environment, right, for that project, and it'll use those variables to point, which means if let's say you're trying to automate a process, like in the video that I did, I think I may have the project open. Let me see if I do. Nope, I do not. That's a different project. But in the project that one of the projects that I have, I'm taking in system variables, and that the file, the Python script that I have, if I needed to, how can I explain it? So let's say if I have a SharePoint site and I have 5 different folders in SharePoint that I need to download files from, right? I'm going to download file from this folder, some other folder, and so on. And then as I download those files, I'm going to do something with it, you know, whatever it may be. So, and instead of me, you know, hard coding or having to, you know, like hard code in the pass or some of that logic into the code, all I could do in this case is pass in the whatever folder in SharePoint, because again, that's going to be the variable. It's going to be different folders. I could pass that in to my command line as an argument, and that would be like, hey, I'm going to, you know, schedule this script to run, but one of the arguments is going to be a specific folder. I could schedule the same script to run as well, but this time is going to be one of the variables is going to be a different folder. So like that, I don't even have to touch the source code. The source code stays the same. What makes it dynamic and reusable, it's going to be my variable that I'm putting in. So that's kind of how I did that piece. But that's kind of where I wanted to show you here on how that works, and why as well. 0, it's always being utilized by default because 0 is your file. You know, that's your first index is going to be your file name, you know, to begin with. So at least those of you who are new, because I am noticing that I do have a some of my subscribers. I don't know about a lot or not, but I do know some. My subscribers, even viewers, people that are watching my video, they're asking me some of these questions that are a little bit more, like kind of beginner type questions. But, you know, hopefully this makes sense, right? Because that's where I want to kind of explain in more detail. Anybody who's new, who's trying to learn, and hopefully this helps out. Hey, what's up, Kyle? Good explanation. Never thought of it that way. I would always use static variables. Yeah, no, trust me, man. Same here. I have done that before, where I just kind of hard code in, especially when you're trying to like work on a project, slap something together and kind of just get it done. But with system variables, it just makes things more dynamic. And of course, it makes it more reusable, especially if it's like a piece of code that you could potentially use in multiple scenarios. So, at least in one of my videos that I had, the Python SharePoint download files from SharePoint, that's kind of one of the videos where I use that in these system arguments, and and then it just makes it that much more easier. Yeah, so this old one, and again, when I first started kind of learning this, I was like, man, it doesn't make sense. Like, why are we skipping 0 and going straight to 1? But again, we're skipping it. It's not that we're skipping it. It's actually utilizing it. It just happens to be using the first argument. Just happens to be the actual Python file that you call. And of course, that's kind of where, again, just comes from experience over time, kind of getting familiar with how everything operates. Have you been programming in Python in a while? Are you a new developer? You've been doing programming for a while, or what's your main language? So also one of the things, just kind of want to put it out there as well. Something. This is something new that I started doing. So I'm trying to do things a little bit different, but something new that I started doing. Where is it at? Anybody who's in need of maybe some help, some guidance, whatever it is, right? It could be something basic, something non-basic. It doesn't matter. Man, more than welcome to look at my calendar and, be more than happy to schedule 30 minutes with any of y'all. I had a session yesterday with one of my viewers. It went good. We kind of discussed some things. So, again, I only have a few hours available, so just want to put that out there. But nevertheless, if there is any help that any of y'all need, maybe something, project related that you're stuck on, you need help with something, whatever it is, you're more than welcome to look at my schedule, book some time. Again, I'm not charging for it. It's my own time. Only thing I ask for, if anything, just kind of a follow if possible. I do have my support channel link, but again, that's not mandatory. That's strictly optional. So that's not needed. I came across your SharePoint Python script. I was trying to download files from a SharePoint file. However, I needed to download it recursively from a top level folder down. Gotcha. I see what you're saying. So your structure, right? So it sounds like you have many folders, right? You have, I don't know, let's just say you have 3 layers of folders. Are you trying to download all the files from the top layer all the way down to the 3rd layer? So if there happens to be, 10 files in the top layer, 100 files in the 2nd layer, then another 50 files on the 3rd layer. Are you trying to download all layers? Well, it sounds like you're trying to download all layers, but I guess the question is, do you know in advance what those layers are? Or is it very dynamic where you want to start at this high level and just, the end goal is download all the files, but whatever files exist could be many files, could be dozens or hundreds of folders. Because I think if you know the structure to some degree, the main reason why I'm saying is, so I know in Python, when it comes to like crawling subdirectories, there's a way to do it. So let's go through that real quick. What is it? OS. So for example, so there's ways where you could kind of walk through your folder structure, right? Now the thing about it is, once we start dealing with SharePoint, I think I'm just trying to think. When we call in SharePoint, we get back a JSON file. I believe in that JSON file, it may have the directory path that it provides, but because the way it's structured, it's not like a true directory at the end of the day, like the way it is on your OS on Windows, for example. I don't think this method will work, because I don't think you could just crawl within the folder. I guess what I will have to see is in the SharePoint, if the JSON response that we receive back gives us those layers in the actual response back. Because I think if it does, that may be one way to do it. I don't know the structure, since I'm helping out my manager. I found out I can just throw the pass in Windows search and pull all the folders. So is it a SharePoint Online or SharePoint on-prem? Because if it's SharePoint on-prem, then for sure you could do it through the way you would do a Windows directory pass, which means this option does work. by walking through each folder. But if it's a SharePoint online, um, that I'm not 100% sure. I would have to look at the JSON response to see if it provides any of that information. Let me find the project real quick. I know I have it saved on this machine. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Let's see. So this would be one of my YouTube videos. On-prem, got it. I thought it was online. Yep. So if it's on-prem, then let me see. I know I have a video for on-prem. Well, more like the connection for on-prem. Where is that? Where did I put that? Man, maybe I don't have a folder where maybe I put it in my sandbox environment. Damn, where did I put it at? Damn, maybe I did not create a new folder for it. Either way, if it's on-prem, I'm good. I did learn that when you do it this way, there are hidden embedded folders in the folders. I know I have. This was some years back, like I don't know, maybe like 6 years ago or so. Um, I actually worked on a few projects, but one project specifically that related that was specific to what you're trying to do. Um, was that where in SharePoint, if it's on-prem, through the URL of SharePoint, like the way you connect to it on the browser, well, I yeah, I think so in a way. I'm trying to think, but no, you know what? That's not how it is. Your SharePoint has to be deployed, most likely some kind of internal server, right? So whatever that server name is and all that, there, you could access it through the directory path. So just through your file explorer, you could access it that way, and then you could literally, instead of having a script that where you have to connect to SharePoint and do all of that, there's really no need to do none of that. You could literally just connect directly to, like, access it directly from your just like the way you would any other folder that's on your network or on your local PC. Same thing, right? You would just call the actual path, which and normally when you're dealing with SharePoint on-prem, it'll be like the server name dot, I don't know, whatever the company domain perhaps, then it'll be like whatever other folder, like the site name and all that kind of stuff. And then of course, from once you access it that way, you could literally have that in your script where you point to that main folder, and then it would be something similar to, where is it at, to what we're doing here, which it would probably be, what's the other one? I'm trying to think. Maybe it is OS.walk. I know there's another function that Python has, but I think OS.walk should work as well, where you literally would just scan through each file one by one. Then from there, you just kind of build logic to step into each folder. And as you're stepping in, you could just grab each file, right? You could check to just kind of do a confirmation. I think it's called OS dot is file, maybe. I think that's the name of the function, called is file, and it will check if that's a true file, and if it is, then it returns back true. Then of course you want to keep that file and move it on over. So let's see. So basically, I am migrating from an prem SharePoint to Linux box to a S3 bucket. So are you? So it sounds like you're trying to migrate all the files over from your SharePoint on-prem to an S3 bucket. Then, right? That's what it seems like on what you're trying to do. I know I have done some. I have a video, one video specifically when it comes to moving files from SharePoint Online over to an S3 bucket. In your case, it's an on-prem, but I think the difference in your case is you really want to move all your files. Um, which when it comes to S3, that's actually not a problem because in S3, as long as you provide the subdirectory name, right? So let's say you have like three layers of like in your subdirectory currently, and you want to keep that same structure. So like kind of give an example. Let's say you have a folder called sales. Then inside that folder, you have a folder called which is a year number, right? 2022. Then inside that folder, you have another folder that's called January, and then of course February, March. And then of course inside that folder you have mini files. But let's say you want to keep that same structure for S3, as long as you provide that in the name to upload, it'll generate that for you automatically when it does upload the file to an S3 bucket, which makes it way easier. So it's not like you got to create a folder. You don't have to do none of that. Literally, just make sure that's part of the name already. The subdirectories is all part of the name, and then it'll generate for you automatically in S3. And again, it does ever you're just dumping files onto, but the metadata that it has gives you kind of the illusion that you have folders and you have a specific path, because that's how us, I guess, humans, right? We're so programmed that's how we're used to seeing things to keep things organized. But it's not really like that in the S3 bucket. It's literally just one big bucket and everything is being dumped in there. Let's see. Yep. Server name and file Explorer. Yeah, they are using the data to create a website. That's what I encountered. Yeah, so I think in your case, especially since it's on-prem, I mean, again, I would probably try to see, can you connect to it through the normal file explorer? Because if you can, whatever that path is, right, whatever that directory path is. So let me just kind of, where's mine at? Where I was doing my testing right now, my sandbox environment. So I copied all of the folders and subdirectories from SharePoint. Yep, okay, to my remote Linux box. So it sounds like you have it in your Linux machine now. It keeps the structure, and it would copy the full structure over to S3. So have you so it sounds like you have it in your remote server, right? So it sounds like you copied all of your files to your Linux remote server as of now. So from that server though, have you moved it over to an S3 bucket yet or not yet? Like has that step been done, or has it not been done yet? And if it is done, how did you do it? Did you use the AWS command line interface to do that? Or I'm trying to think what other way you would be able to do it. I mean, the only options I could think of would be AWS command line interface, or I ran a test and it worked. Okay, so that's cool. It seemed like it worked though. It worked to move it over. Yep. No, that's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say if you use a command line interface, then that makes it a lot easier. I use that as well for a lot of my automation processes that I have. I use this tool called Visual Crones, and ultimately it allows, pretty much, I schedule things to run, right. For example, when, in that tool, I would do a download file from FTP site. As it downloads the files, then I have a step 2 is go ahead and upload the file that got downloaded over to an S3 bucket. Step 3 is execute AWS glue job. Step 4 could be execute a procedure. Step 5 could be, I don't know, move the files over from an S3 bucket over to an archive folder in S3 type deal. I mean, you could do all kinds of stuff, but yeah, I use that a lot. The command line interface it's very handy. It's actually very robust as well too. From a compared to you to upload it to the UI. The UI, especially large files, I did like some of my processes. I'm uploading 5-10 gigabyte files, and man, it's so slow if you do it to the UI, but to the command line interface, it's very quickly. Especially since my server lives in AWS as well on the EC2 instance, so all of that's within the same network, and everything just it's a lot faster for sure. So how long have you been programming in Python? Is Python like one of your first language, or did you start off learning some other language before you started learning Python? I'm always curious on how, people got into Python. Um, so for me, my role is I have my own business. I have my own company right now. I have a small team. When I say it's really a small team. I have like one full time employee, and then I have one contractor that's part of my team. We do my business called Go App It, and what we do a lot of integration work, web apps. Those are like the two main things that we do. So the way what we do for the clients that I have is, so let's kind of give an example. One of my clients, we build them a web app, but we host and manage the web app. On I host it in my AWS environment, and we manage it. So because we manage it, we do all of the updates, the database backups and OS updates, and we do all of that kind of stuff. Which, number one, makes it easier when it's under my control. Number two, it becomes a reoccurring revenue stream, because I charge the client to build it, so that's one cost. But B, because now I'm managing the platform for them, there's a reoccurring charge every month. So that keeps revenue coming in. And normally, what happens is, most of the time, anyways, whenever we build an app for a client, what happens? Their mind, just starts thinking of, oh man, it would be cool we had this feature, or we had this feature, or whatever. So now, maybe it took us 2 to 3 months to complete their app, but because they have all these ideas, now we're working on it throughout the year, adding all these other features. So again, that just becomes additional revenue as well. So, and then of course that we do integration as well. Like when I say integration, I manage all the aspects of integration for my clients. I have all the web services running, the database, all of that stuff. We do all the connections. So like one of my clients, for example, they have a system like a think of it like an SAP type system. It's not SAP, but I'm just kind of giving an example. A system like SAP, and let's say they're trying to integrate with Salesforce. They're integrating with all these other platforms, right? That are out there. Just kind of name a few. Like some of the integration stuff that we have done has been with Wayfair, Shopify, maybe Amazon. Again, the list goes on of different other platforms. But either way, if we're integrating with all these other platforms, we take care of all of that. We manage all of that. So we're like the middleman for our customer, where we take any data that's coming out of their system and going to another system. We manage all of that. And then any data that's coming from a system to go into their system, we manage all of that. So we communicate We manage all of that stuff. We set up any SFTPs that are needed. Because some trade partners that we deal with, um, they require the client to provide the FTP or SFTP, things of that nature. So we set all that up, and of course, as transmissions are being sent. So one thing I would tell you from integration, like I know when you're dealing with like mobile development or even like internal web app development, the integration that most people that come to mind most often is API, right? You're dealing with APIs all the time. So you call the API, you get data, you get and you put data, right? But when you're dealing with some of these big player integrations like Walmart, things of that nature, it's not through APIs. They use these other formats, EDI X12, for example. So really what it is, it's more like um, file transmissions is what you're doing. Instead of like calling an API to get data, you're transmitting a file. But the file could be an XML file or kind of what I mentioned earlier, EDI X12. So, which is kind of like the standard when you're dealing with like supply chain transmissions, right? Like with Walmart and Target and Wayfair, all the big players, they don't communicate with each other through APIs. They communicate with each other through file transmission, which happens to be X12 format, which is a standard that was kind of designed, from more like a global standpoint. So like, anybody who's shipping, like, if you're integrating with somebody from China, from India, or whatever, a lot of the time they use the same standards. So it becomes like the specifications are a little bit more already more known in advance. You could customize it, but overall, there's a lot of, it's already kind of defined, right? It's not like they're making up their own XML schema. So as you integrate, now you got to build different mappings for each XML schema. In this case, you're dealing with an X12 specific version, and in theory, you could just have one mapping that'll process all of those files that are coming from Target or Walmart and all these other places. So, but yeah, that's kind of, I think I'll probably said a lot, and whether it makes sense or not. But yeah, that's kind of what I do. So it is my business. Um, I have, as of late, I'm getting more into doing my YouTube. I want to grow my channel. Um, my business it's in a good spot now where I think it gives me more time. I have a small team, so they help out a lot to kind of get things done and make sure everything gets going. But now, since I have a little bit more time free, it's where I'm trying to, you know, grow my channel, right? Try to do certain things, which is why there are certain things that I'm trying to do to kind of help out as well. Whichever way I can. Anybody who wants to help, anyways. So that's kind of like I feel like my next phase of what I feel like I want to do, anyways. The next couple of years is focus on that more. Still, I'm very hands on in my business still, but again, I don't have to be as hands on just because I do have a team. They're able to do a good amount. But I'm still involved. I like to code, so I still code on some of the projects that we work on. I'm still hands on certain things that we do. And then of course the big difference is there's a lot of administrative work I have to do now, dealing with taxes and dealing with payroll and all that stuff. But it's part of doing business. Let's see. Interesting. My primary role is to manage file transfers from my company to other vendors, partner companies. My Python journey, I have been on and off with Python. I started off with Java and C++. Didn't get far. Then went to Python, built a ticket calculator, cost things, and stop. So it sounds like you've been kind of, I would say Java and C++, especially C++. That's a little bit. It's a different beast for sure. Especially if that's like you're coming in as being your main language. Um, it's different, man. It really is. Java is actually like the thing with Java. Java still to the day is very popular, and I think it's a good language to learn as well. I don't know that I will build any projects though with Java though. Like when I say projects, if I would have built something from scratch, brand new today, I don't think I would use Java. Not that it's a bad language. I think it's a good C sharp. There it goes. Okay, that makes more sense. C sharp. I was gonna say C plus plus. Like man, you're trying to build you some video games or something, man. You want to make sure the performance is top notch. Then, um, yeah, that makes more sense. Java and C sharp, and those are again, those are what I would consider corporate programming language, right? Your big corporation, not your fan companies, right? Not your Facebook or Google or Apple. Um, they really, I don't think none of them use C++. I know some of them use Java for sure, but not C++. Um, like Apple, I don't know, I don't think they use either. I know they use Swift and Objective C still here and there. And then of course Google does use Java, and they use Python, and then they've been incorporating Golang as well. But um, but yeah, though, man, Java's a good language, but I don't know if I would build anything from scratch using Java, though. And the reason why I say that is I think nowadays with the power that computers have, like again, we all, I don't know if you know, but you probably know in the ways if you don't. Um, Python is not the fastest language, but the thing about it is that when you run Python code, it's actually fast. Like when you look at it from a human standpoint, it's fast. But the reason why you hear a lot of the time, well, Python's slow, because it's slow when you compare it against Java, C sharp, especially something like C++. It becomes real slow. But when you look at it individually, it's actually fast. It's not slow right there. It does do things very fast. Um, but nowadays, it's one of those deals where processing power is so cheap. RAM is so cheap, CPU is so cheap. Things are getting faster. More abundance. Where the bottleneck in applications are not necessarily the language as much. It's very rare, put it that way. You got some exceptions when you become very big. Let's say like Google, like Google for example, Google search. Back in the day when they got started, it was using Python in the back end. The back end was using Python to do all the searches, and it did its job, decent a period of time. But then it got to the point where it just wasn't fast enough, and of course they replaced it with another language. I believe they replaced it with Java, and then because again Java was faster, and then that's where I don't know if they're still using Java today. I'm assuming they probably would. They still are, but still though, it's one of those deals where I look at it from if I want to build something, I want to build it quick, and I want to go in, build it quick, especially if it's like an app that I'm building as a business idea. Like for example, I actually just this got deployed not too long ago. So I built this app. This is strictly all using Python. So I'm using Django for the front end or the back end. Django, Python. Then for the front end, I am using, of course, a little bit of JavaScript and a little bit of Vue.js as well. But again, this is all it's live right now. It's using Python. I don't have there's not like thousands of people using this application, but there are people using it right now. I see the transactions. So there's transactions happening every month, for example. And so far, I've been talking to a few people that have been using it. Not every month, my bad. Every day, there's a handful of transactions happening every day, and seems to be for the most have going smooth, right? Everything's pretty fast, pretty robust. Ultimately, this is a file a sharing app where you want to share a file with somebody. For example, you could share a file with somebody, but whoever you share it with, they would receive like I kind of give you an example. Let me just kind of go through the process. Let's say I want to share this image. Then I could set a duration. Duration means how long is going to be available for the user to access. Let's just say 1 hour in my case. Then I want to make it passcode. Passcode means it's going to be a passcode protected. So you need a passcode in order to access it. And then I'm going to email it to myself at contact@iamblue.net. So when I hit share, boom, it uploads. All of this that you see here, this is all, again, using JavaScript and Vue.js to do all of that. It refreshes. So now if I come to my email, I would have received an email. And then, of course, this is the email that I received. And then this is my passcode. It tells me that who's sharing it, which is, me. Has my name, the file name. And then if I were to click on the download file, but let me copy my passcode real quick. Let me go to download file. So now when I come here, if I click on download file, it's going to tell me passcode incorrected because there is no passcode available, right? I mean, I didn't type nothing in. But if I do type it in, then of course it downloads the file. So now I have access to the file. Now the other thing too is whenever you share, so I guess what I was trying to do here with this app is when you do share it with the recipient, they don't need to have an account to the app. So like this Go Share It app, the only person that needs an account is the person that's sharing the file. But the actual recipient, they don't need to have it. As long as they get that email that I showed, for example, as long as they get this email, they could click on it, or as long as the person that shared the file with them, for example, where is it at? Does a copy, right? Copy the shareable link, and email it to them or text it to them, whatever. As long as they have that that link, then they'll be able to access it without needing to provide a login or create a login, do none of that. Like in my case, I made it passcode protected. So of course you need the six digit number in order to be able to download the file. So it kind of adds a level of to kind of minimize it being public, right? Public means anybody could access that file. So let's see. Is this cloud file transferring? So when we say cloud file transfer, are you referring to like Dropbox transferring? Like you have a file in Dropbox, you're trying to share, or like the file that are being stored in the cloud, I guess. I think that's what you mean in a ways. So I'll explain some of the what I'm doing here with this app. So what happens is whenever I click on the share to upload a file, like to share a file, whenever I hit submit, it's taking that file and it does upload it to the server, it's a Linux server that's running. It's temporarily saves that file in the Linux server. As soon as it's done saving that in the temp folder in the Linux server, then it takes that file and then it sends it to an S3 bucket. So I have an S3 bucket, and it goes into that S3 bucket. And then once it is an S3 bucket, then of course it deletes the file on the server side from the temp folder, temp section, and it gets deleted. So there's really no storage being utilized on the server itself, just more temporarily. But these files are being moved over to an S3 bucket. But the key thing here is it's being moved over to an S3 bucket temporarily. So the whole purpose behind this is not for it to be like Dropbox, right? Dropbox is more a storage first, and then of course you could share internally, or I believe you could share externally too, but it has to be public files, which means anybody with the URL could access the files. This is more of a the way it's designed is share first and then store second, but the storage is strictly temporarily, right? And again, the storage is based on the duration. So if I would have, like right now, I have this set for 1 hour only, right? So if I refresh it, 55 minutes. So that means in 55 minutes, this file here, it's no longer going to be available to access. So anybody who has the link, they won't be able to download it anymore. And then also the file gets deleted from the S3 bucket. So it literally goes away. Because again, it wasn't designed to be like, hey, let me store this file forever, and then I could just share it whenever I want. It was kind of more designed to be the opposite, right? You want to share it real quick with somebody, and just give them enough time to download it or view it. But again, you could tell the durations are a bit longer, from 1 hour to 90 days. So I am right now. It's still in beta version, and you're more than welcome to use it too. It is free. You don't have to pay for it. So you could just go to the Go Share It website if you like. GoShareIt.io, and then of course you have a sign in or sign up section on top, and then you could just go from there, register, and again, it is free. I am going to have a paid version, but whenever I release the paid version, there'll still be a free version. Only difference is going to be paid version. You're going to have longer durations, right? 30 days, 90 days, 180 days, and so on. And then of course, free version would only have 1 hour, 1 day, 7 days. Also, with paid version, there will be another shared status, which is going to be passcode and also password protected, where you could create your own password if you like as well. And then, of course, the recipient will need to type in that password in order to access the files. So there will be a few other features, but either way, there will be a free version as well. So, I mean, you're more than welcome to play around with it, use it, or if you know anybody where this maybe is beneficial, then yeah, you could use it as well. Let's see, nice idea. My girlfriend was looking for service similar to this, but set up a paywall. She's a photographer, so a person would have to pay first to receive their photos, or pay and get a pin, whichever. Yeah, man, go ahead and play around with it. I mean, there's again, there's gonna be a few other features that I'm gonna be adding onto it as time goes on. One of the features I'm gonna be added onto it, and this is gonna be more like I'm gonna add it onto the beta version, so it'll be available for everybody. But once I deploy the subscription version of it, it may only be available for the subscription version. But I'm gonna add a portal where if you got people, like, again, other people, they're trying to share files with you, and ultimately they could go to your portal and just drop files in there, and as they drop files, you'll see them just pop up automatically on your share list here, and then they'll be available for X amount of days, right? So it's kind of like the opposite way, where people, a good example of this would be if, especially nowadays, since people work remote, and they have so the other thing with this app, it's being designed to share large files. I believe I have it set right now for 10 gigabyte file sizes, so it's able to handle 10 GB file size. I'm working on extending that to 100 gigabyte file size, and the reason why I want to make it big, now there's some challenges with that, but the reason why I want to make it bigger in file size is especially since people are now there's a lot of content creators that are out there. There's a lot of people that provide service to do video editing. So I want this to also be a tool where somebody could be like, hey, I want to share my video with them in the rawest form. So if you're doing like 4K videos, like I do 4K videos when I do my videos, dude, it's a lot. Like it's literally a couple of gigs just for a few minutes. So if you're making a video that's 30 minutes long in 4K, man, you're easily looking at probably over 50 gigs, between 50 to 100 gigs in file size. But either way, that's where I want to make that big, the file capabilities. So anybody who's doing that kind of work, like, hey, I'm going to be sharing large videos with my video editor guy, he could, let's say this could be a tool to use where they could just download it, and then as they finish editing and doing all their work, then they could provide it back. Like they need a mechanism as well to send it back, but there's no need for them to create their account, like create an account and do none of that. that's kind of one of the features. That I'm going to have a portal where they could act, the same person that shared them that big file, that person would have a portal where people could drop files back to them to for them to get back. And then of course, again at the end of the day, the whole purpose is only one person needs an account, which is the person that's doing the sharing. The recipient doesn't need to create an account. All they need to do is click on the download link, put in a passcode like the way I did, and then of course they could access the file. So that was the whole idea behind that. Anyways, I have had a few people. I actually got it. I got this idea a few years back. It just took me a while to put it into work, just because I've been so busy with my company and everything initially when I first got started, just like crazy busy. But things again now I've been having a little more time now, and that had allowed me now to create this app and just work on other things, man. That I've been wanting to do. I have more time now to do more YouTube, do more live streaming, and of course work on this app. And but yeah, again, it's good to go, man. You're more than welcome to play around with it, break it, right? I mean, if you do break it, finding issues, man, I appreciate it if you just shoot me a message or something, say like, hey, I found this issue. Any kind of feedback be well received, because it's still in beta version. So of course, if there is any issues, I would like to kind of get that addressed before the subscription version gets released. And that probably be hopefully another like 2 months from now, the subscription version. But again, there'll be a free version. Even when the subscription version comes out, there'll be a free version as well. So if it is something that it's beneficial, to you, your girlfriend, whoever, again, they could always still use the free version, which for the most half would do probably everything they're trying to do either way. But yeah, man, this is um this app right here. Again, it's strictly Python Django all the way. So I would be the bug testing on the 27th. It would like, with your permission, I could do some bug testing. Sure, man. I don't have an issue with that. By all means, man. So any feedback that I could get that you find any issues, uh, be more than now. There's a few things that you will probably see that are not currently working, like the analytics link doesn't work. So that's something I'm working on now. The settings is not working. The only thing that works is log out and profile. Right now it's pretty basic. So this is an issue that I noticed too. So I need to fix this. Should not be doing this, but yeah, I have it on my list of issues to address. So, but again, man, yeah, play around with it. See if there's any issues that you may find, and if you do find any issues, by all means, more than happy to any feedback you could send my way. Be much appreciative. Yeah, and by all means, man. If like I really like anybody who wants to try to hack into it, break it, whatever. Like I take that as a positive, because that means if there is some flaws with the application, where that's something that by all means, um, it'll be great to address right before the subscription version gets released. And um, and I think that's one of those deals that a lot of companies, they don't do as much, right? Like you want to release the product, you release it, and it's almost like if there is an issue or there is bugs or even security flaws, instead of addressing it or being open about it, they want to hide it, or try to just not even address it, because we don't want people to get scared or whatever. And yeah, I'm not a big fan of that, man. It needs to be more transparency behind that for sure in my mind. Um, so let's see. So I know you mentioned you kind of stopped, right? So you started Java, C++, and then you started um, working a little bit with Python. Then you kind of stopped. Um, have you found projects now? Like, is there like stuff coming up at your work where you're like, oh man, I could use Python to do this that you feel like it's probably maybe would motivate you to get back into Python right now, um, or have you not really done any like projects like that where maybe if you did, you'll be more like, oh yeah, I'm gonna dive into Python or any other language. It doesn't have to be Python, right? It could be JavaScript if you like front end. I'm not sure if you prefer front end compared to back end, um, but of course JavaScript works. You know that's very good for front end. Are you looking for like projects um, at your job? I guess like because I would say for sure, like I know for me, whenever I first got started programming, I got started. So I think what helped me out some in the ways was before I even started learning programming, I started learning SQL first, and then I got pretty good on SQL. Like not just basic querying SQL, but I started doing more advanced SQL, right? Creating functions and procedures, and even doing some um, you know, iterations within SQL and adding like business logic and things of that nature, right? So I started kind of getting more into that. Which means I was dealing with data types as well in SQL. Like whenever I declared variables, you gotta specify data types. When you create tables, you gotta create data types for each columns. So that kind of got me exposure to data types, variables, things of that nature. So whenever I started to learn Python, but here's the thing about it. What got me to really like dig into programming, it wasn't necessarily because I just like, oh, I want to learn how to program, or it pays well and I want to get into it. It was none of that. This was some years back. Um, it was because we were working on a project, and at the time, my department that I worked on, we kind of create solutions to try to like operations, like in the supply chain. It was a supply chain company, logistics company that I worked for, but we were like the team that we kind of build out solutions, like process flows on how things should work, like physically, and then what can we do systemically to optimize some of the processes. So I came up with this idea of what we could do, try to automate a big portion of it, and it was going to be, it would require some development work. So we met with the IT department, and of course I told them my idea, like, hey, can we build an app that does X, Y, and Z? And they're like, oh no, we cannot do that. Like that's way too difficult. That's not doable. So of course I never programmed before. The only thing I've done at that time was SQL, but never programmed before. In my mind now, like, hell no, this could be done. I know it could be done, even though I had no clue how to do it. But in my mind, I was just like, how are you gonna say this cannot be done? I know it can. Either way, that what got me to learn how to program. I took this course back in the day when Coursera was free. So this was some years back, right? This was like good maybe even 8 years back or so. But back then, when Coursera first came out, all of their courses were free because they were a brand new platform that just came out. So they were like testing everything out. Um, I started learning Python. It wasn't Python. It was a programming fundamentals course, and then but it happened to use Python. So after I finished that course, I stick with Python, using Python. Eventually, what I did, I like, you know what, I'm gonna build my project now, based on the little programming that I knew. But again, I picked it up kind of quickly because I was already familiar with like variables and loops and things of that nature, right? So it just sped up the process. So I ended up building the app, and it pretty much did everything I wanted to do. And that was my first like learning on the job, I guess, like how to code using Python, and so on. And ever since then, man, I've been just boom, some other project comes in. I've been like all kinds of other projects internally. Like back in the day, me and a buddy of mine, we were doing some data scraping for FanDuel. They probably changed things, I'm assuming, but this was some years back. Dude, we're pulling like millions and millions of transactions of data from one of their APIs. Their API was exposed, and I don't know if they knew that or not, but it was exposed, and we saw the logic. It was a sequential and numerical sequence that determined a lot of the what do you want to call it, matches, I guess, or the games, right? Pretty much. And so we were trying to find patterns, like, well, who, for every game, like some of the FanDuel games had like 100 players, right? And then of course, or some of them were big, like 10,000 players, or when I say players, participants, I guess. But and then of course you pick your lineups. At the time, it was the NBA, so it was all like NBA games for the most half. Um, I think a little bit of baseball maybe, but mainly NBA. And then we're pulling all of that data, and we're pulling it pretty much every day because there's always a game going on every day. And that's when we started loading to a database. It was like, dude, man, this is getting big. Like we're loading easy, like, I don't know, 7 to 10,000 rows of data a day, and then we did that for about a month. So we had a couple 100 million rows worth of data. And the plan behind that was a buddy of my friend, his brother-in-law. He was like a statistics guy. So we're gonna try to see the guys that are winning, like who's winning all the time, and based on who's winning, what are their lineups, who are they picking? Try to see if we could try to find a pattern. Either way, I mean, it was a good experiment testing that out. We never really got much out of it from a statistics standpoint. But again, the exercise of data, pulling that data, accessing their API. Again, this is early on FanDuel when they first kind of came out. So kind of what I mentioned earlier, a lot of companies, like when you deploy an app, there's a lot of security flaws, I think, that they just miss. They just didn't realize or whatever. And but we noticed some patterns. We digged into their API. And then we noticed the pattern of it, which was a numerical sequence. So we're like, dude, we could just sequence that, again, using Python one by one, by one over and over again. And then we were just getting all the lineups information of who's winning, who was their lineup, who did they pick, what was the score. Again, it was a nice experiment, but I would assume that doesn't work anymore. This was a couple of years back. And then there have been all kinds of other projects similar to that I have worked on, or me and my buddy have worked on, and stuff like that. And again, that's kind of, I feel like, how you grow too, right? The more that you're playing around or just trying to do things or break things or hack into things or whatever, it just kind of, you just learn more as well, and expand your knowledge over time. Let's see. My job is legacy, haha. I am just starting to build plans to properly manage the Linux environment, but I would like to start getting deeper into concepts so I can actually build things or have skills for the next role. Yeah, dude, I will strongly recommend that, man. Like, just when you're dealing with, if you're gonna get into programming, which again, I don't know if you like to program or not, if you're interested, but if you are interested, again, it's a career path that has a lot of potential. All it takes is getting your foot in the door, right? If you have opportunities where you work at today to get like a programming job potentially or something similar to that, then that's good, right? Hopefully, just a matter of building up those skills, getting knowledge, getting some experience, kind of learning. And I think that would for sure, give you the confidence. So that's the other thing I would say. A lot of the times, you don't need to have all of these skills. You need to have enough. But what happens is, if you don't have the confidence, that ends up slowing, it just slows you down. I went through that at one point where I was like, my confidence was not as strong because I became a programmer not like a untraditional way, I guess. Like I didn't I didn't go apply for a job for a junior programmer and then got the job, work my way up or learn on the job, doing that, and then move up to a senior job, a developer, nothing like that. For me, when I first started, even kind of what I mentioned earlier in the when I built that app, I was not a programmer at the time. Like I was not getting paid as a programmer. My title was not programmer. I was not doing programming work daily or even weekly. It was just more for that project. I ended up building an app and it was able to automate a lot of the processes. And then there was maybe like one or two other apps that I built while I was still there for that company. But again, I wasn't coding every day. My actual role, we were like optimizing and fine tuning processes. So, I dealt with data a lot, but besides that, I wasn't. It really wasn't an opportunity for me to grow like the way I would like to in programming. Um, but eventually, it's like anything, right? I moved away from there, went to another job, started using more of my programming skills there, and then eventually started my own company. Right now, it's about to be 4 years this September that I have had my own business. So now I'm programming all the time. I'm in databases all the time. So my knowledge stays pretty fresh. It just kind of gets sharpened throughout time. Um, Myself personally, I would have a small task to complete. I would have to bang it out. PowerShell in the past, but it's hard to envision it again. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, it is, dude. I would tell you, it is. When you're not doing it all the time, right? Like again, when your job is not when you're a software developer because that's your job, you're actually always into the code, right? You may not always be coding like or typing on the on the keyboard, but you're always involved in code somehow from a design standpoint, from an engineering standpoint, from a optimization standpoint, just from all these other views, and that makes you better over time. And trust me, I've been there before. I've been where I have had a job where I wanted to code a lot, but just the work that I did not really require me to code as much. Maybe I code. When I say code, I don't necessarily mean like typing on the keyboard coding, but I mean more of my mind thinking in the matter of code from a sense of logic, engineering, as from an engineering standpoint, view set, designing, developing, things of that nature. It was more like, okay, I code maybe 5-10% of the time, and then the other percent of the time was meetings, and it was more doing some other work, or maybe doing some database type work, or data analysis over some data. Like I've been in that situation, and especially when you want to code and you're like, that's where your focus is at, man, it kind of sucks because like, man, I want to do more, but just the job does not provide that. But I would say though, if that is the case, man, expand, expand on projects. Like try to find some kind of project perhaps that you could do. Things of that nature, right? Maybe it's your own project. Maybe you have some ideas like, oh man, I want to build this, and just start learning little by little bit. Like, how can you get started, right? It doesn't have, whether it be Python, JavaScript, C Sharp, whatever. It doesn't matter what language. Just kind of pick one. If Python, it's easier for you, then stick with Python. You can do a lot with Python, and just kind of get started and so on. I am gonna be putting some videos together as well, kind of going from scratch on some of the projects that I have worked on in the past. So kind of walk through the process of how to even get started on a project. Like, what are the things to when you're starting a brand new Python project, how to get started? Because there's a lot of things got to set up first, right? Set up a virtual environment. Kind of go through the package list of what packages you need for that project. Which variables you're going to use in your project. So there's, you kind of go to the setup spot, and then you kind of go to the design aspect of it. Then you can start coding the project, and then how do you do certain things in Django, like kind of like the app that I just kind of showed right now, right? It's a web app. I'm using Django and Python. Well, anybody who wants to create a web app, the questions probably become, well, how do I even get started with Django, right? How do we even create a project, structure, or, some people, I have had people ask me like, well, I started learning Django, but I'm confused. I don't know what this means or what this means. I got that in part on one of my lists. It's probably gonna be a multi-part video, but it'll be a video kind of going through and try to explain like very detailed as well what certain things do, and hopefully that kind of helps out as well. So, oh, all right, man. So I think that's about it. I'm gonna call it a night for my live stream. Man, I appreciate you joining my live stream, man. It was real good talking to you, man. Again, let me know if there's anything I could do to help you out. Again, I know you mentioned you're kind of getting started as well, so if you do need some help, um, I'm gonna put it on my profile, so you're more than welcome to see it on my profile. But I'm gonna put my calendar link in my YouTube about section, so you're more than welcome to take a look at my schedule, the time that I have available. So if you ever want to book some time for whatever, right? Just to kind of like, hey, I'm trying to get started with this, or hey, can you explain this? You're man, by all means, you're more than welcome to book some time. I'd be more than happy to, you know, discuss or kind of go in more details of any specifics that you may want to do, or just join the live streams. Again, I'm on my schedule for live streams is every Tuesdays from 8 to 10, and then on Fridays from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. And then I think I'm gonna include another live stream on Wednesdays. I haven't done, it's not set yet, but I think I'm gonna add it to my schedule probably for the month of June, where I'm gonna do live streams earlier in the day though, but on Wednesdays, probably like around 1 p.m. on Wednesdays. But either way, for right now, it's Tuesday, Fridays. More than welcome to join the live stream. The whole purpose of the live stream that I do is, again, talk to any of the viewers. Y'all have any help? If you do have code that you need help with, be more than happy to like code, in the live stream and show you firsthand how to do certain things and explain what certain things do. That's kind of what we do in some of the other live streams that I have done. So again, man, it was good talking to you, man. I appreciate you joining the live stream, and I'll be on Friday again from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. So, you're more than welcome to join there if you like. And that's it, guys, man. Y'all have a good one. Thanks for joining, and see y'all again.